Let's get some political analysis now from Dr. Fikile Vilakazi. Doctor, do you agree that this was an incredible show of support today? Our political editor estimating 100,000 supporters pitched up.
Good afternoon, Francis, and to viewers at home. It was a splendid demonstration of political power, I think. I was watching it as it was emerging from the beginning of the day until the commander-in-chief entered the stadium. I think he entered actually earlier. It was about 1 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. And there's just so much. The numbers, the organization, the timekeeping, the commitment to the level of detail that we haven't seen in a very, very long time in terms of political parties that have been leading us. And I think it was a well-organized event. I think we must give that to the economic freedom fighters.
If the ANC was holding such an event today, could you compare hypothetically how those two would pan out against each other?
Totally. You just have to look at the conference of the ANC Women's League that has just ended. You just can't compare the two. Time delays, and all of that. And you look at the ANC conference that happened in Nasrec in December as well, where there's just like massive issues of disorganization, time delays, and not knowing what is going to happen next and so on. So those are two events that are really not comparable, just at the level of organizing and making sure that the public follows through and the public knows what is happening. In terms of numbers, Francis, we must say, I think that it's been a long time that you see a political party, including the ruling party, feeling the FNB in the capacity that we've seen today. Something is happening, I think, in the political sphere. There's something that is changing, and 2024 will be a very, very interesting time for all of us.
It will indeed, but the EFF may have loyal supporters. Will that necessarily translate into widespread support in the elections next year?
The thing is, if you look at the messaging of the economic freedom fighters, Francis, it is speaking to the frustrations of the people, right? And the demonstration of people coming up to the EFF perhaps could be a display that says we need an alternative and we are tired. And I think until this 10th year celebration of the EFF, my reading of the situation has been that the voter is in a sort of stuck in a dilemma, something that I've been calling a political dilemma towards 2024. But I think people filling up the stadium and taking it in the manner that they have, clearly in support of the EFF, has sort of shifted that dilemma towards the possibility of an alternative for 2024. You're talking about a political party that is the second strongest opposition party in the country following the Democratic Alliance. And the numbers of the EFF have been rising over the years, right? They're not going down. They're just a growing political party, not just in terms of numbers, but very, very strong ideologically, and also starting to put their hands where their mouths are. You're starting to see them in communities doing cleaning up campaigns, feeding the poor, giving, they went to the people of Marikana recently, and they did a ritual of Ogupahla, something that you call, a thing that they've been calling the ANC to do for many, many years, to appease the ancestors of the people that have been affected by many things in South Africa. In this particular case, the widows of Marikana. Those are the things that are speaking to the conscience of the people, and I think that is what is responsible for the numbers that we see. The fact that the EFF continues to be troubled about people living in the middle of debt, and they take, amakandakanda, and they go and they clean up. They don't just speak. So if you look at the campaigns that the EFF has run, just from Pay Back the Money to Pala Pala, these are the campaigns that the EFF has been willing to put their bodies down for at the National Assembly, and unwaveringly so. So they've been bold, they've been brave, they've had audacity to speak truth to power, and something that the public of South Africa has been asking of the African National Congress to do, and the ANC has not been able to demonstrate that. The DA also has not been able to demonstrate that in the context of racism, right? So there is something that is really unique about the politics and the stance and the positionality that the economic freedom fighters is taking in this country. Whether it is leading us towards the right direction is something that we need to test on the polls in 2024. Suffice to say that if you're reading it in the context of the ANC politics, Francis and viewers at home, you are starting to see the lost generation of the ANC Youth League redefining itself in the form of the EFF. And I've said this before, that if you look at the EFF, it's really that generation that was expelled in 2013, which was meant to be the future of the ANC. So what we are seeing actually in the economic freedom fighters is the re-emergence of political power that was lost in the ANC, but did not lose itself in the process, redefine itself. However, I think there are many things, of course, and glitches that the public has witnessed over time in relation to how they are now relating to former President Jacob Zuma, the recent protest about Professor Lumumba, around the LGBTQI community, and so on. So there are those things in the public domain that I think stand to be tested on the poll.
Doctor, I just want to come in with one final question. Please forgive me, because this is all fascinating, but I just want to touch very quickly on the rhetoric, which has been interesting as well. He said, we are Marikana, and Marikana is the EFF. And also, he's taken shots at the government about the whole Russia issue, saying we are Putin and Putin is us, of course, because government has agreed that Putin would be arrested if he came here. Is that interesting, especially in light of the speculation that the EFF might actually work with the ANC after next year's elections?
It's very, very interesting. And I must say, I think the veterans of the ANC are totally against the coalition between the ANC and the EFF. That stands to be tested. But the question of Putin and the international positionality stems really from the sentiments that generally South Africa has around the role of the Soviet Union in the liberation struggle, of the country from apartheid. Francis, my issue is that I think the EFF has positioned itself as an anti-imperialist organization, which is something that I think is about really undoing the oppressions of colonization. The only challenge I've always heard about the relationship that we have with the Soviet or the former Soviet countries is the ideological aspect of it, perhaps in practice, the praxis, right, of democratic centralism, that most of our political parties that have benefited from the power of the Soviet Union, the former Soviet in this particular case, including Russia and Ukraine, by the way, is that no one then, including the ANC, no one is analyzing the dangers of democratic centralism. And I've said this, and I'm going to say this to the Commander-in-Chief of Julius Malema and other political parties who believe in this relationship with Putin, to say, let us not be blind in how we relate with countries like Russia. Because the political stance really is obsessed with violating human rights of people, of citizens. If you go to Russian citizens right now, they will tell you that the leadership of Putin is that of iron fist, right? It violates the people's rights, human rights, the fundamental basic issues of what it means to be human. Go to China, go to Korea, right? So for me, that is just that, to say, if the Commander-in-Chief is going to really locate themselves within that, they have to really redefine democratic centralism. And I've said this to the ANC as well. That's the only thing I think that is
all right,
sensitive.
So you're pointing out the dangers, but saying that they are the message is certainly resonating with South Africans either way. Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, political analyst.